Hello and welcome to WorldCanvass from International Programs at the University of Iowa. I'm Joan Kjaer, and this program is part 2 of a 4-part series on sustainability, the social impact of sustainability. And our focus tonight is sustainability as a social goal. Joining me on stage are Marcelo mena-carrasco, just next to me, and Craig Just. I want to say thanks to both of you for being here. Yeah, so for those of you who haven't yet met him, Marcelo mena-carrasco is a civil and environmental engineering graduate of the University of Iowa who directs a large sustainability Center in Chile. He is also the 2013 recipient of the International Impact Award from the University of Iowa, and an honor to have you here. Craig Just is an assistant professor in the UI Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, and he coordinates the College of Engineering sustainability programs and does so much more here on campus. Good to have you here, Craig. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so the topic is sustainability, and I think we ought to just first discuss how we should think of sustainability. What really does that involve? Craig, let me go to you first.
Well, sustainability is a really broad topic. I might consider it a meta-discipline, really a mix of a whole bunch of things. But in the context of having Marcelo here today, I can put it in some words. It's kind of knowledge in motion, and in particular, smart knowledge in motion. I teach our Introduction to Sustainability class, and I really want students to go beyond kind of the classical knowledge domain of sustainability. We think about society, environment, and business somehow overlapping just perfectly, and if they do that just right, we'll achieve sustainability. But a lot of times that teaching in the knowledge domain takes the action out of it, and so I teach my class in the context of sustainable citizens who want to do things. And here's someone that wants to do things and has always done that. And so part of my understanding of sustainability over the years, interacting with Marcelo and Forrest Meggers and others along the line that ran with Marcelo while he was here, taught me that that's what it means. It's about citizens, in their case students, acting on behalf of the knowledge they have on, doing things the right way and including others. And really trying to balance many of the things that we hold dear as a society.
Mm-hmm. So when you're dealing with students in the living and learning community that I know you direct, or any of your engineering students, what's the charge you give them? You don't think outside the box?
Sure. Well, it's more than think outside the box. It'd be act outside the box, right? And I like to have a shout out. I work with a lot of art majors in my class. The Intro to Sustainability class is open to all majors. And in engineering, we typically say that we want to train our students to think outside the box. Art majors are taught that there isn't a box. And so I really like to embrace that quite a lot and to bring that thinking in. And who drew the box in the first place? And who's in charge of that box? And so that's a lot of what I like to teach the students and to try to encourage them to understand who's in charge of the system, who's in charge of what's going on around them. And then once they know that and they know a little bit about the society or their community around them as well, then to get involved and to go right to those people who are in charge and try to make a positive impact. So that's one way to do it.
Yeah, so that's definitely what you do as well. How do you think of sustainability?
Well, it's really about thinking of it's about compassion. It's about thinking of what somebody else might feel about something, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes overall. And it's a process that doesn't stop, and that shouldn't be, in the sense that you never are really an expert. And I'm saying this because, for example, we set up a recycling center at my university, and my students were always asking for a recycling center. And I thought it was, everybody wants this. And I was already helping stop coal-fired power plants and not in my backyard type of stuff. And then all of a sudden, I had the students up at arms against my recycling center. And it was a really big lesson because I assumed these guys wanted this. But I didn't put myself in their shoes in the sense that I was taking space away from where they would be able to study with the recycling center. And I would have other people come in and maybe disturb what they're doing. And that was a lesson that really, there was no real project or activity that you can impose. You need to discuss everything, and it has to be participatory. You have to have everybody discussing it. And that's what it's really about. So you're never really done. You're never really an expert. That was a big lesson for me, and I don't assume anything anymore regarding that.
Yeah.
Show your Iowa pride, the Iowa Hawk Shop, where Iowa shops. The ultimate collection of Iowa Hawkeye merchandise, gifts, and apparel. Help support the University of Iowa. All proceeds benefit men's and women's athletic teams and student programs. The Iowa Hawk Shop, where Iowa shops. Show your Iowa pride. Call 1-800-HAWK-SHOP or visit www.hawkshop.com.
You're going to have a 3D card.
Why are you taking it, Tish?
So the key thing here is that
Yeah. Well, when we talk about sustainable communities, are we talking really about things like best use of water resources, limiting the amount of gasoline that might be needed for transportation, these kinds of very concrete things? Or are we also talking about sort of the livability of a place, the way buildings function next to one another, allowing for community gathering and all of those kinds of things?
I guess you have to think about, well, sustainability is putting yourself into another person's shoe, and then it's interdisciplinary meta-discipline. So therefore, in this international aspect, you see differences in cultures. And then within those differences, you see that there's a truth that you could find. And so what is sustainable? It's really, there's really no solution, because it really defines on what indicators, for example, you think are more important. Social aspects, economic, comfort, etc. But this discussion, though, is really good, because then you could see within these different cultures what is sustainable. I came into the US, and for example, I remember I was at the IATL, and we were doing all this sustainability research, but our energy use was like $100 per person per day or something like that. It was ridiculous. I had 30 times more energy use sitting in my office than at my house and at Hawkeye apartments. So then, why was this going on? Because they were actually burning coal to cool the building, generate electricity to cool the building, instead of just opening the windows, right, in the winter in Iowa, right? So that sole change actually saves, using free cooling, which is I know that's called right now, saved $100,000 a year after they implemented that change. And so in Chile, we have no heating and cooling. Not that that's good, because we're actually pretty cold. When I came back to Chile after the US, even though the temperatures are much more milder, I was cold for the first time. And I remember the first shower I took, and with no heating in Chile, and it was just terrible. And then, so what is really sustainable? Having a really cool building or having no heating? I'm probably pretty sure that having no heating is not sustainability. CO2 emissions in Chile are 5 tons a year. You guys have like 30. So we have 6 times less, right? But we have that low emission because we have a large population that has very little emissions. So is that sustainable? Not at all, I would say. They have the right to want to have a great quality of life. So hopefully we'll look for that quality of life to be fulfilled in a most efficient way and most sensitive way for the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find that particularly, in Iowa City or the Midwest, the United States, we have sustainability in the context of essentially rich people's, very affluent people's perspectives. And Marcelo and others, years ago, we used to go to Jicotepec, Mexico. I've taken over 100 engineering students and non-engineering, I hate that phrase, non-engineering, and other students, other majors. No one's a non-something, but in other majors. Into international settings and into places where people don't have, cooling and heating and running water and things like that. And then now I currently take students to Kobridi, Ghana, in West Africa. That village is part of the 2 billion people on the planet who don't yet have electricity. And students go, what? I thought everyone had electricity. And so just to be able to paint the perspective is how sustainable is Kobridi, Ghana. If you want to build a house in Kobridi, you dig a hole, it's pretty much clay, kind of a mud, and you put water on it, and you build your house out of the hole you dig. You literally see, and then that hole becomes the place where you put your waste. And then when you're done with all that, you bury it, and then if you want to build a new house, you dig another hole over there. Thatch roof, all recyclable, all sustainable, right? But the child mortality rate in Kobridi, Ghana, speaking of 5 times or 6 times, CO2 emissions, more in the US versus Chile, well, then the mortality rate there will be 5, 6, 10 times higher than it is here. And so it's really that kind of the health disparities that come with the lack of resource intensity. So it's really that kind of like that ratio. And how do you balance the enough of raw resources that you use, whether they be sustainable, renewable, whatever the word is, to get the health impact that you want within kind of putting yourself on the path for global unsustainability with CO2 emissions and whatnot. So try to get the students in the mindset, again, someone else's footsteps. I've got folks, colleagues in this kind of Engineers Without Borders sort of mentality that say, if you don't go, you don't know. So I try to bring it to life in the classroom, but until a student or a faculty member or someone goes, you don't really know. And so what's sustainable to Kobridi, Ghana versus what's sustainable to Iowa City, Iowa? Inextricably linked, but really hard to define, which is more sustainable and whatnot.
Yeah, so I'm interested in this idea of universal truths about sustainability. You mentioned that you get to the truth, you try to understand the circumstances, and somehow you do get to the truth. Is there any kind of universal truth?
There's universal processes, I feel. Transparency, equity, those sorts of, justice, those sorts of things. If those can occur, then, sustainability can be achieved might be the word, but at least you're moving towards it. So I like to use the phrase the pursuit of sustainability because it is a process that's ongoing, just like trying to achieve justice or liberty or things like that. I think it's a word that defies definition in that sense. But the process of how you would move towards sustainability or the process under which you would maintain a civil society. Those processes apply. And if you can get those in the system, right, with people that don't adulterate the system and take over the system and do those things, then you're on a path towards sustainability. And I think that's the way I like to think about it.
Yeah.
True. There's no truth in the sense that, and Václav Havel, who was a former president of Czechoslovakia, he said, seek the people that are looking for the truth, but stay away from those that have found truth. And because the dogmatism is really not a good thing and evolving. And then these truths have changed overall through time. So as I said before, we have 20 years ago, we thought it was sustainable to live in an eco community outside of the town and have a diesel 4x4 and have wood burning for heating. And then today, it's an eco-citizen, probably lives down in a community, probably lives in an apartment. And so that's changed. That truth has changed with more insight. And this insight is going to keep on coming. And we're going to probably find, for example, that the bamboo flooring wasn't that sustainable. And the ethanol that we prided upon having and filling our cars in Iowa wasn't sustainable in the end. So it's going to be... it's a process, but at least you're always looking for the truth. If you find the truth, you better watch out, because that's not going to lead to good solutions.
Yeah.
Hawkeyes are rising. The Big Ten season has officially begun for the Iowa men's basketball team. The Hawkeyes will be heating things up on the court once again this Big Ten season, and you can help get Carver rocking.
Kjaer's going to break out and look out below. Contested and showtime.
For tickets, call 1-800-IA-HAWKS or visit HawkeyeSports.com.
Tradition.
Ambition.
Exploration. Inspiration.
You feel it when you step on campus at the University of Iowa.
The energy and pride of students inspired by our history.
And excited about our future.
When you join the Hawkeye family, you're a part of it all.
Be a part of it.
Be a part of it.
Be a part of it.
Be a Hawkeye.
State continues in the zone. The wall. To Aaron White. Steals it away. She's got Pruny. Instead, she'll go coast to coast and finishes with the right hand.
Well, you're both very interested in water purity and making sure that there are clean water sources for people around the world. I know that one of the things you do when you go to Ghana is work with your students on water purification for the communities. And I understand that you worked, on the project in Mexico with developing ways to purify water. And I saw a little video of yours online about...
So yeah, that's a great story that I had with Craig, and I'm glad you brought it up. So with Craig, we went to Jicotepec, and there's this big water issue. And then we developed a partnership with Procter & Gamble. They have these little emergency packets for purifying water. And the proud Chilean I am of our water treatment system, I'm like, we'll never need that in Chile. It's for underdeveloped countries. But in 2010, we had an earthquake, and we had millions of people without water. And I made the connection with Craig and continued the connection with Procter & Gamble, and they sent us their emergency relief system. And then I used my capacity in the sense that I don't have many resources, right? But I grabbed my hybrid car instead of, and I packed it with these pure packets, and I went straight to this location and started putting these and giving it to the municipalities. Of course, there's many appropriate technology solutions that are never implemented because you need to show that they work. So what I did was something that's pretty crazy in the sense that down the river of Santiago, there's the Mapocho River, which is for many years where the wastewater used to be sent. And at the moment that we did this, there's some still wastewater going in there. So what I did was going on national TV, and
of course.
and I went and grabbed some water. I did not take care of my pants going down a little bit more, so people got to see a little bit more of me than I wanted to on national TV. But I treated the water, I drank it on TV, and it really, the people believed it. So then I sent out my students to Talcahuano, and we provided water for 32,000 families. And actually the guys from Procter & Gamble said we were actually as effective or even more than some of the emergency relief firms they're working with, like World Vision or others. So, and then when we did that though, I was like, man, that's, I was very emotional at the end because of course, I couldn't believe that, working in Iowa in 2004 when we went to Jico, 6 years later, what I had learned would actually help benefit my country. When at the moment I was doing this, I'm like, this is never gonna work in Chile, and it worked.
Yeah, and my connection to that, Marcelo made that Procter & Gamble connection. I got a hold of the lead product specialist from Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati. His name's Greg Allgood. He's at World Vision now, by the way. I said, hey, these students found these packets, and they need them in Mexico. And he said, well, we're not doing it in Mexico. That's not a country where we're testing it. And I said, well, where are you testing it currently? And he said, well, in Haiti. And so then I said, I'll meet you there. And so I flew to Haiti that fall and met Greg at the airport. Actually stole his ride by accident because there aren't a lot of people like look like me, tall, and he looks like me. And they thought I was Greg, and I took his ride, and he had to get a cab back to where we were going. And by the way, I've learned all of my names in the various countries that I've been to. So like in Mexico, I'm a gringo. In Haiti, I'm a blonde. And then when I go to Ghana, the little kids say, oh, Bruni, all right? So that's in Chui. So I know all my white man names in every place I've been. And so, but I met Greg in Haiti, and at the time they were testing that particular purification packet with women's groups, kind of like the way a big corporation would with a new product outside of Port-au-Prince. And I learned a lot about that on how different groups had used that product. And that's followed me around for quite some time, and I learned a lot of lessons, and it was a neat connection through Marcelo, and now Greg Allgood has done amazing things with those packets all around the world, and it's a really neat story, and it's again a connection point that Marcelo gave me.
But it's also really cool because it's like it's very miraculous, because you have this water and you teach people about drinking water processes and how to. So in an educational setting, not an emergency setting, we'd go to Chile before the earthquake and we do this Procter & Gamble thing. But so then you grab this water, it's dirty, then you teach them how to disinfect the water, how it coagulates, and they start seeing how how these flocks are forming and then it precipitates. Then you drink it. And then it's just like a very, very religious experience in a way, because you have this water that's all murky and dirty and stinky, and then all of a sudden, well, it tastes like swimming pool water many times.
It little does, yeah.
But still better than getting sick.
Show your Iowa pride, the Iowa Hawk Shop, where Iowa shops. The ultimate collection of Iowa Hawkeye merchandise, gifts, and apparel. Help support the University of Iowa. All proceeds benefit men's and women's athletic teams and student programs. The Iowa Hawk Shop, where Iowa shops. Show your Iowa pride. Call 1-800-HAWK-SHOP or visit www.hawkshop.com.
Tradition.
Ambition.
Exploration. Inspiration.
You feel it when you step on campus at the University of Iowa.
The energy and pride of students inspired by our history.
And excited about our future.
When you join the Hawkeye family, you're a part of it all.
Be a part of it.
Be a part of it.
Be a part of it.
Be a Hawkeye.
Sick.
Well, it was entertaining. The TV clip that you can find online shows the TV hosts, waiting for you to drink it first, and then one of them drinks it after they see that you haven't fallen over and died right there, and then the hosts back in the TV studio are all screaming, "Oh, it's wonderful!" Really, I could see that this would be something people would remember. It's a very effective way to teach a lesson.
Risky, because I'm pretty sure I got Kjaer after that, because it doesn't really treat everything.
It doesn't. There's a couple things not so good at it.
Yeah. Well, so, you two guys make engineering sound like an incredibly exciting field. I'm sure the art students, and I have to say a lot of this is a big revelation to me, because I grew up at a time when I really, not that I didn't appreciate what engineers were studying, but it all looked like it was on paper to me as a non-engineer. I was a non-engineer. I didn't understand how much you were out in the world, even as students, thinking of those things that can help us right here on our campus. All of the sustainability effort on campus, really, you were one of the leaders in that early on. And students now, this is second nature to the students in your classes, right? They all want to get out there and do something.
It's getting there. In fact, when this happened in the early 2000s, Jerry Schnorr was involved too. Students essentially demanded He teach a class which is now called Sustainable Systems, and they said, you know, this isn't in our training enough. Our engineering professors keep training us things to do things that we know are not sustainable. They don't take into account several things that should be in there. I would say actually engineering as a whole profession has somewhat come to sustainability a little bit kicking and screaming, relatively slow. We're conservative by nature, I would say, in the engineering field, and it takes a while to change a field like that. It's happening for sure. You know, you get people like this that are kind of the early adopters and, you know, kind of leading the charge. And then, the rest of us are kind of behind here doing our thing and kind of leading that big group that kind of comes up in behind all that. So it's happening. Certainly, I kind of consider myself to be in a sustainability bubble. I have students that take my Intro to Sustainability class by elective, and so of course they've come to my class, it's an elective, they don't have to be there, and they're ready to go for sustainability. I'm always looking to expand the movement beyond that group of students. I want to learn from them, and I want them to learn as well. But there's the unsuspecting passerby that's much more valuable a lot of times, and I always like to find ways that we can impact that person too.
Well, and I know that we're going to be talking in a moment with Greg Carmichael and Pablo Saide, who are involved with a research center that is investigating all these issues and trying to offer information to better inform policymakers in our state and elsewhere. So we're going to be talking about those things. But should I assume that these students, whether they become engineering majors or whether they took one good class when they were art majors, they're not going to lose those lessons. I mean, that's going to stay with them forever, and presumably it'll affect the way they vote, the way they think, the way they raise their kids.
Yeah, there's one guy that I really remember, which is Mark Krezolek, who was a former UISD president. He was one of those guys, he wasn't engineering, but he got into this, and it was really great. What he did after his leadership, and he was one of the guys that pushed for the certificate of sustainability to occur, and he actually pushed for the Green Campus initiative to start and have that, was that he actually stopped the coal-fired power plant right around the corner as a Sierra Club organizer.
Up in Waterloo.
So, and he's not an engineer, but not everybody's perfect, you know. But it was great to see that even then that guy caused change. So you got cleaner air thanks to him.
Yeah. Fantastic. And what are what can you tell us, Craig, about what's happening here on campus right now? Are there current sustainability movements or projects that you would want to point to?
Well, so the neat thing for me, I'm in my 21st year here at the University of Iowa, and Marcelo started a group, Engineers for a Sustainable Future at the time, and they did their things, and I've been seeing these student movements, and really from the engineering perspective, and then other groups doing it as well. Now we just were certified gold, sustainability gold as an institution through ASHI. One of the only institutions of our size, no one's ever gotten platinum, so gold is really as high as anyone's ever gotten. And for our institution to now literally institutionalize sustainability, that's one of the neat progressions I've seen over the last 10, 15 years here. And then those student groups still do their thing, and I guess I'm interested to see. Marcelo mentioned the legacy of the radio station and whatnot, and boy, those things are still going on. Well, I wonder which kind of legacy pieces maybe 10 years from now that we kind of get a little bit sleepy at the wheel, and we're going to need some students or someone to come in and say, whoa, you're not there yet. Keep going, change something, do whatever it is. We feel kind of proud where we are now, but that might be because we weren't where we should have been a while ago. So who knows where we'll end up. That'll be the key thing.
Right. Wow. Well, thank you so much. This has been the second part of a 4-part series on the social impact of sustainability, and you're listening to WorldCanvass. Thanks, everyone, for being with us tonight. Thank you, Craig Just, and thank you, Marcelo Mena-Carrasco. Thank you. Good night.